Okay, we'll get started. Just welcome you all to the session. You're able to see my screen, right? So let me just give a couple of disclaimers, or maybe this is like the intro to the session itself. Today we'll be discussing about 4 to 5 templates that are uh, mainly built around the business processes. They may not have a customer at the other end, but they are for anyone who wants to securely share their financial information in the regulatory ambit. So, before we go into those details, let's look at what are the main things that we can take away from the session. While the session talks about the business processes, we are not going to educate on how the business process has to be set or how these activity has to be done at your organization. We are only looking at these templates and what these templates or the councils want the FIUs to know while implementing these templates. And we are not recommending any business model to be adopted or any process to be adopted just by the mere publishing of these fair use templates. These templates are supposed to set an outer bound for these use cases. What data can be collected under these specific use cases, but we are not prescribing the use case to any of the organization. And please don't refer to the upper bounds as a proxy to regulatory or compliance approvals that you need to take. Samati does not recommend any use case for any specific license. Samati does not require to know the flow for which you are building all these use cases. It is up to your own compliance team to understand the applicability of the use cases as per your charter. There are about 15 templates today, and there are 3 more in the pipeline. So, not all templates are applicable to all the FIUs in the ecosystem. On the FIU side, we might have more than 30 or 40 licenses in the industry today, which are active. Not everyone is live with all the templates. They choose the one that applies to their charter, their compliance team has agreed to, and they use that. And if you have any feedback on the FIP and the performance of the FIP or performance of the ecosystem as such, even that is not part of the discussion. For FIP, we have a different forum, the related to support and other details. If you write to info@samati.org.in, they will share further information on how to be on those forums as well. We'll have the Q&A session at the very end, and likely the topics that you might have questions on are covered in the sessions. If they are not, at the end we will take the questions. You can alternatively keep adding your questions in the chat box, and we will take up as and when uh, it's feasible. Just to for us to understand who is the audience for the session today, can you please quickly scan the QR code and let us know more about your role? Are you part of business process teams, or are you part of the tech operations, compliance or risk, legal or any regulatory role? Are you a data provider, PSP, or are you a data user, FIU, or a product manager on the product management side, or any other background you belong to? I'll just have leave this with you for 2 minutes so you can let us know your roles. Yeah. So just let me just quickly look at the board results as well. Uh, So the we have mostly on the tech and engineering, the product management side. Couple of you are from risk and some of you are from the legal side as well. So thank you for voting. Let's keep it more on the lines of product management and the tech providers, and I'll try to cover for all of them. We'll focus more on the product side. So even before we delve into the fair use templates, first let us take a few minutes to understand what fair use framework is for the AA ecosystem. And we've been conducting several webinars on this, but still there will be some new audience that who might not be aware of what Samati does. So Samati basically is a not-for-profit organization that works for the betterment or the promotion of account aggregator ecosystem. One of the key pillars that we work on is to ensure that there is reasonable use of AA, and we do this by setting up standards for the fair use of the account aggregator flows. And the main uh, vertical that works on this is based on a fair use committee that was formed back in 2023. So if you look at the timeline, ecosystem went live in 2020, but as it grew, the more diverse licenses were active on the AA ecosystem, and there were various use cases that was developed. Our governing council, which is the advisory uh, for us at Samati and also for the ecosystem, they guided us to form a fair use committee that looks into what reasonable access of data would be in the ecosystem. So we started out with 5 templates. The most prominent at that time were PFM, wealth management, lending, and then insurance, which were slowly followed up with other use cases that we see today. As of today, there are 15 templates, and the guidelines were adopted industry wide last May 2025. And we've been tightening the implementation as well to ensure that there is complete adoption across the board, which is to ensure that everybody is on the same page. So, what are the basic expectation from the market on fair use is we have a set of fair use guidelines. FIUs are expected to be the implementers of it. The primary responsibility of the uh, implementation of fair use templates itself falls on the FIUs, and they are need to implement and ensure all their consents are well within the fair use limits. AAs will act as the first level of checker for all incoming consent requests, and they'll also be checking for any deviant requests and rejecting them. At the same time, they'll also be checking for the data pulls also that's happening, and to ensure it is within the fair use limits. FIPs have retained the right to voluntarily check and reject in case the consents do not meet the requirement, the fair use limits. And this also is something that they want to exercise mainly as the data custodian of the customer, right? So they also can block the deviant request. Now, what is this consent template and how is it being used? Consent templates are a set of upper bounds for the consent attributes. Now, if you know the consent architecture within the AA ecosystem, you know that there are at least 10 to 12 different parameters that form the actual consent artifact. It is like an agreement with these attributes as the conditions for the consent. So one of the main thing is what is the purpose of the consent, and for that set purpose, how many times do I pull the data? For how long do I pull the data? That is a validity, and what is the range of statement that a FIU can pull for under a certain use case. So it sets the purpose limitation, collection limitation, and also the storage limitation by way of the data line. So these are actually created by various councils, and the council constituted members from the ecosystem itself. So the FIUs themselves came together to decide on the purpose and to agree on what should be the maximum limit that is needed for each of these use cases. So if you want to go lower than this, you're welcome to reduce your data collection. It will support your own, internal risk policies, so that you have your data minimization at play, right? You're not taking data excess more than what you need. So the templates per se are not the guidance on what you should build, but it is the guidance on what is the maximum that you can go up to. For example, if a template says you can't take a consent beyond 1 year, that's a maximum validity that the ecosystem has agreed on. If you have a use case for more than 1 year, please write to us. But in all likelihood, the council has considered all possibilities and they've arrived at that 1 year as the consent validity. And same in case of lending, it is 5 years and 7 years and things like that. So it is a community asset prepared by the ecosystem itself. And all the data points are reference or upper bounds, and they are not actually what is important. It doesn't mean that you always should keep it for consent validity of 1 year. If your internal policies require you to keep for 6 months, then only retain a 6 months consent. And then these are not purpose codes. Now, purpose codes are published by Rebit. We already have 5 purpose codes. What we have tried to do is align the purpose codes with the different use cases, and those purpose codes are being mapped as per the Rebit definitions. But template in itself, like there are 15, so we've mapped to the 5 of them. And if you're using different templates, ensure the purpose code given in that template is being used. Okay, and then these are not suggested for any of the licenses. While we do speak about NBFCs, we speak about SEBI entities when we are describing some use case, we are not suggesting that you do. You check with your compliance team and you ensure that your company is aligned with what you're doing before taking up these templates. Again, it's not a legal advice that has to come from your team, and it's also not mandatory attributes. Like I said, 1 year does not mean you have to ensure that template your consent is built for 1 year. It can be anytime within 1 year, but up to a maximum of 1 year. Similarly, if a pull is like 25 per month, it doesn't mean you should also go for 25 per month. It can be lesser than that as well. Okay. Now, just to get an understanding of how many of you have included the fair use templates already and how many of you still figuring it out, so that I can go much deeper into the templates, or we can move on to the do's and don'ts of the templates. I'll stay on the screen for a while. You can give us your answers. Okay, some of you have implemented and some of you have not implemented. For those who have not implemented, we'll go through the templates in detail. So, what do we mean by B2B templates, right? AA per se was started as a mechanism for secure data sharing within banks or within regulated entities, and it was mainly developed as a financial inclusion practice for our nation. While it is for customer facing, it started off as a customer facing, but the beauty of this ecosystem is that it can be used for any of the regulatory or business process as well. Wherever there is a compliance requirement, wherever there is a requirement for a bank statement to be shared from one regulated entity to the other. If it can be an individual, it can be a company, it can be a sole prop owner or a HUF. While some of these types are yet to be enabled, but the infrastructure is built the architecture is built in such a way that it will accommodate various sorts of use cases, making it not only seamless but also easy for the individuals or the corporates to be able to share their information to the actual party who has to actually look at the information. There are no interceptors in between. There is no intermediaries who can access your data. So there is no misuse. This gives a very secure pipeline for you to be sharing the data. So, like we have lending, we have PFM, wealth management. There are several use cases, insurance for customer focused templates. The councils have also come together to form certain process-based templates which are built specifically for internal and regulatory or operational processes of regulated entities. And these are backed by the regulations around it. Now, I'll give you an example. There's a template for monitoring the recovery agents. Now, the recovery agents, as per the NBFC regulations, they have the right to review the financial position of their agents to check their counterparty risk. So if the agents are already sharing their bank statement on a periodic basis with the NBFC, then they can as well use AA to be able to securely share the data. And the data reaches only the department which does the due diligence or which does the risk assessment, risk committee. And even that data remains in a form where it is not accessed by individuals. Only when there is a deviation, when the model flags something, that part of the information can be shared with the individuals. But otherwise, it goes and retains in a system. So this machine to machine transfer in a secure way is actually what individuals and companies can leverage and make their processes also seamless. Now, who can use this template? Like I said, we don't recommend who should use which template and what license, but the FIU who has a mandatory charter or they have a charter or a regulatory mandate for them to collect data for any specific use. Like in SEBI, for example, the employees voluntarily give their holdings information to the compliance department. Now that can be made automated, that can be made encrypted in such a way that only the team that is finally using that information is able to receive that information, and employee information is not scattered across divisions, right? So that those can be the kind of places where it can be used, but there needs to be a regulatory charter or a mandate for you to collect this information from individuals or from businesses. It can also be used where there is a requirement for a verification or cross check or some reporting or some compliance around it. Some institutionalized use case is already there within the regulatory boundary. Within that, you can use it. Like I said, we don't recommend which one you can use. It is for you to review the templates and take the most one that meets your requirement the most. So we have 5 templates that we are going to discuss today. CT040, which is for cross-validation of financial accounts. It is a generic template, can be used across licenses wherever you are validating the customer's details. And 45 is for one-time verification of the financial condition. This also applies when you're entering into an agreement or there is a employee agreement where they're supposed to share something. This is a one-time activity. And 42 is the counterparty risk I was mentioning, typically for recovery agents and the sourcing partners or collection employees who are in the collection division, things like that, where they need to submit their own records to prove to be transparent or to assess the counterparty risk. That is what is being discussed in this template. 43 is specifically for compliance reporting of employees. While we were finalizing this template, we had only the PIT regulations in place in discussion. So if there are any other regulations that requires, the monitoring of employees' financial condition, then you can bring it to us. This template today includes only for SEBI and it includes only investment data. And the last one is a template we have to create for the government scheme beneficiaries, where they're not customers per se, but they're beneficiaries of a training program post which they get a job and their salary is credited, to ensure that the salary is credited and to ensure there is the job that was promised as per training of the government scheme. The governments wanted to review the bank statements, or they wanted to fetch the bank statement of these beneficiaries, and that is what the template we've created. So, looking at only the cross validation template, like I said, it can be used anytime when you want to validate something. You have the record of the address of the customer, and from the profile section, uh, you're asking for you want to verify the customer's address. So you can take a one-time consent, check the profile and summary only. Those are the only two information that you get in this, because transaction is not used for validating the profile, right? It's only the profile and summary that is being used. So if you don't want summary, you can skip summary. You can ask only for profile, and you can take recommended that you take only deposit or one of the accounts to validate against. And since it's a one-time consent and the verification happens on the same day, the validity, the consent life, validity and data life, everything has been kept at one per day. Now, similar one there is. This is for all FIUs across all, either for customers or for employees or any of the cases where the account needs to be validated. It can be typically, you can validate against what is there in insurance, what is there in GST and address and deposit. Also, there are certain fields, right? You can go through the profile FI type schema for all these, and you can look at what fields that you can use for validation. If you have a regulatory requirement to validate those, you can use this template. In only one of the use cases, we found that they wanted a non-zero account to validate. So we have provided for summary here. Otherwise, if your use case is only to check the profile of the customer, you can only ask for profile in the consent. And this is a one-time verification of financial condition. This is slightly different from the other one. Here, the requirement is mostly for employees, vendors, and third parties, where you have to do a first-time assessment of them before onboarding them. It happens with employees also, very less on employees, but mostly in case of vendors related to wherever the vendors are interacting, have financial interaction. In all those places, there are regulations that require for the REs to verify the financial condition of the vendors or those before entering into agreement. So this is a one-time consent to review those. And if you look at the FI types also, it's mostly the deposits and business related FI types, and not too much into the other FI types. Basically, this is to give an understanding of the business. I think there's some overlap in this content, but it's basically deposit, GSTR, one life insurance and general insurance. When we share this presentation, you can click on that link below and you can go to the actual template and see the breakdown. And here, because you're reviewing the financial condition, last 12 months data is being requested to check for cyclicality of the vendor's collection or vendor's cash flows before doing the entering into the agreement. So both of these are one-time templates, and the do's and don'ts of this is very similar. For cross-validation, it can't be more than one account. If you take more than one account and you get a conflicting value, you don't know which one to verify. So always go for only one account and verify your records with that account details to ensure there is parity. And always take explicit consent, goes without saying, though they are your employees or your vendors or anything like that, please take an explicit and informed consent. Inform them that their data will be pulled for this purpose, and then only you use that information. And internally as well, the access to the data should be restricted only to people who are relevant and allowed to be accessing that data. Even just because somebody is in risk or compliance or audit, the data doesn't become visible to them by default. It needs to be, you will already have a policy, right, in your organization. Without AA, also you are getting this information from the employees or customers or individuals, and you're maintaining strict policy and access to that, please continue to maintain that. And if you don't have for AA flow, please ensure there is some policy that you've prepared before going live with these use cases. Because this is again a PII data, when especially the profile information, and it also comes under DPDP. So please ensure a complete flow is set up before implementing these templates. Don't is to avoid any repeat data pull when it is one-time consent. Where you need a one-time verification of a customer's account, don't ask for a periodic consent or a repeated consent. And also don't dilute the consent itself to take a blanket consent and ensure and ask for a wider purpose than what you need the data for. And ensure the data remains with the designated internal teams and is not used for any other purpose. And this also is applicable under DPDP as well. So the other three templates, what we have is all recurring templates, where it's more on the monitoring lines. While the activity is that of a monitoring, what these three templates do is it makes the life of the employee, employer, vendor, everybody easy by making it easier to submit their own bank statement. I remember being part of one of the departments where I was supposed to submit the holdings every week for my own investments, and it is so tedious to be filling the form every month, every week, and submitting it, and compliance reviewing it and coming back to me and saying this is not part of your restricted list. You should not be holding this and change it. So this can be automated, and that process can be done through these three templates that we have. The first one is CT042 for risk monitoring of recovery agents or sourcing partners or employees. I think I briefly touched upon. If you look at it, this is only deposits and GSTR1, which is the revenue, which captures both the revenue and the cash flow stream of the individual or the agency. And the maximum frequency is one per month because it's done very periodically. Even one per month is actually quite liberal. What some of the NBFCs have implemented is to check them every 6 months once. So because we have only enums for year, date, day, we have enum for hour, day, month, year, and infinite. So we had to form the template according to that, and that's why it's one per month. But if your organization checks this every 6 months once, you're free to use that pull only on the 6th month and then take data of the last 6 months. And the maximum validity is 1 year because it typically has to be coterminous with the agreements that you have, but it's best practice to keep it 1 year, similar to the way you do KYC and other processes, right? So there is always you don't have additional exposure, and 90 days is within the period within which the history of collections is reviewed and everything. That's why it's maintained like that. Then we have compliance reporting. This is what I was talking about. Private yeah. So we have compliance. It says the meeting will be. You want to say something about it, Piani? What is this meeting time?
In the next 5 minutes, we would request everybody to rejoin the same link. There is some technical error, which is why it is saying that in 5 minutes, we would need you to rejoin the same link.
Okay. I'll just quickly finish these two templates so that when we rejoin, also we are left with the do's and don'ts in the last part of the presentation. Like we are almost another 20% of the presentation that's left. So in compliance reporting, it is under the SEBI regulations, which has strict regulations of insider trading related reporting. And not everyone is being reviewed under this. Only a select set of authorized, either it is associated persons or authorized person, or in AMCs, the rules are different versus what is the rules for research analysts. So each of the licenses have different requirements. Keeping all of that in mind, we have ensured a template allows for, okay, this purpose code is wrong. It's 104 and it is a recurring template. It allows for 25 pulls per month. But if you have a different requirement as per your license, you can reduce it to maybe if you want only on a weekly basis it's been reviewed, you can also have 4 per month. It is up to you, but the maximum is 25 because we consider 22 working days and we kept three buffer for the technical failures in any of the days. And data range is 6 months. You can take up to 6 months in one pull. And consent validity is again 1 year. Though the employee continues to work with you, today the practice is every year the employee gives a declaration. Mimicking the same process, we've kept the consent validity also as 1 year. And uh, yeah, 7 days of data life. By then, the data is pulled and consumed. So, data life is written based on that. The last one is about the government scheme. Now, this is not applicable to all FIUs. This is a very specific template done for NABARD, I think. And if there are more such use cases where there are parties who can be FIU. In this case, NABARD can be an FIU as per the regulations. So they are the ones who are doing this check, and they are also the ones who are party to the training. So they'll be able to use this. And it is up to 3 per month based on the salary credit is what is being checked. They're checking whether those who underwent the training is able to get a job and is a salary being credited. That's what it's being viewing. But if this needs to be further enhanced to accommodate some other government project, some other FIU and the policy makers project, then we'll be happy to take it. Please write to us at fair use at Samadhi. And so this explains the overall three recurring templates what we had. Now, some of the guardrails that you need to be mindful of is not only to seek incremental data from which you've done the previous pull. Please don't unnecessarily pull data which you've already received. Ensure it's incremental because it's a recurring consent, right? If you pulled for last 1 month and this month you want to pull the data again, pull for the date later to it. If you have SEBI data to be pulled, please pull only once a day, though it is 25 per month, because the settlement data is what you get in SEBI entities. So even if you pull more than once a day, it will still be the same data that you will get. So let's avoid unnecessary burden on the FIP and then have different consent for each purposes. Don't bundle them. Don't think that monitoring is convenient. I will just take monitoring at the very beginning with the employee. No? If it is one-time activity, take one-time activity consent. And if it is a monitoring one, be specific to that purpose itself, and then you take it. Don't have an overriding consent on top of what you're taking here. Somewhere in the beginning of the employment or some agreement, you say all data given can be used for something else. It can't be used like that. Be very specific to that. And in case of CT040, where it is account verification, have only one account. Though it says deposit and the FIP may not be able to check this, but AS can check actually. Please include only one bank account. And the rationale is given as below. In case we drop off, we will come back again. Any question until then? There is some question. Is there any question? I think we will rejoin. Thank you all for rejoining. Happy to see so many of you still here. And just quickly share screen. Yeah, really have joined.
Yes, we can start.
Yeah. So, and just share the screen. Able to see, right? So, like I was saying, there are already guidelines on. These are the guidelines for recurring use cases as well as we looked at the do's and don'ts for one-time consent. Now we look into why the specificity of one purpose, one consent. This has been there since the very beginning in the AI ecosystem. There was a principal agreement among the AAs and later it became a code of conduct. And today we see this in DPDP actually, which speaks about the consent needs to be specific, and purpose for which it is taken has to be very specific, and there needs to be clear understanding in terms of the person who is giving the consent, and the FIU should avoid any kind of purpose expansion. While these are employees and your own vendors, they should not be coerced into giving consent. It should be from free will, it should be unconditional, and they should choose to share information which they would otherwise anyway share, right? And there has to be limitation on the purpose for which the consent is being taken. Now, in case of all these B2B things, the templates, the first thing to ensure is the consent is. Oh, I think I have it in the don'ts actually. That's that don'ts are much more important. But anyway, this I'll reiterate. It has to be as per you're seeking only data that you need as per regulations. Don't go beyond what is required. Check with your compliance team before setting up these processes. Is it okay to take this information from my employee? Is it okay to take this information from my partner, from a vendor? And there are so many agreements or vendors that you enter into where it has nothing to do with the financial condition of the vendor. In those cases, you don't need consent. Just because there is a vendor, you can't set up a process around it. Check with your compliance team and take explicit consent we discussed. Then also align your data pull requirement as per the internal policy. Already there is a policy that exists that will require, let's say an employee to give their statement every once a 6 months. You also include the same thing. Maybe you take one per month, but because there is no half yearly time in the consent frequency, you'll have to set it for month. So you can take it either two per year kind of thing or one per month. But because our templates are prescribing the upper bound for the unit as well. So in this case, even if you take one per month, please use the data only 6 months once, if that is a requirement as per your internal policy. And similarly, if you only need profile and don't need summary, don't need transaction, then don't take it. Keep only what you need to cross verify, and always strictly use data within that purpose itself. And the don'ts are very. See, all these templates, even the consent itself, is not a surveillance tool. It's it's provided to make life easier for the individual to share the data. It's not the other way around. You're not monitoring them, you're not putting in a surveillance tool. And why this is? Because it's at the core or design of the consent itself. Consent is voluntary and also revocable. Just because today an employee gave a consent doesn't mean that you can rely completely on that, and you keep pulling data. You'll get the data continuously for that entire period. The employee has the discretion to revoke it at any point they want for whatever reasons they want. Like it's a voluntary. So in these cases, what the entities who have implemented this have done is to also have a mechanism to educate their employees about these templates and the need for these about these consents and the need for these consents to be in place, which will make the life easier for the individual themselves. And two, they also have set up an alternate mechanism in this phase, because the fail can happen not only because consent is being revoked, it can also happen because at times FIP may not be available to provide information. So there can be an alternate mechanism where you get this information, and don't assume this to be one surveillance tool that covers everything. It may or may not cover the complete risk that you have. So the accountability of the compliance still will remain with the compliance team actually. So just because an employee gave a consent does not mean that it absolves the compliance team of their responsibility, right? To ensure it is complete and ensure it work continues, the compliance team need to engage with the employees as well as the consent itself. And don't take consents where there is no financial position to be reviewed or the profile to be reviewed. There are so many other due diligence checks that are done. Maybe you need a board resolution document. Maybe you need some photocopies of the PAN or PAN is anywhere available here. Let's say something else that is not available in EA. There's no point taking data from here. You won't be able to cross-validate. And consent has to be free will. It can't be forced. If an employee chooses not to give data as per this, it is as per your internal policy. But please keep it open that consent is based on free will of the individual and not being coerced, or there is no dependency created on that. And the data that is shared by employee vendors or whoever it is cannot be shared across division. It has to be with the vertical that is responsible to collect and maintain this data and take adequate steps. In case of SEBI, I think we were talking about one of the implementations, and it came to notice that though the data gets pulled and pushed into the database of the data centers of the compliance team, even the compliance team doesn't look into the individual. There's a model that reviews it, and only the deviant data is pulled out, and that a trigger is added to ensure that the compliance team gets to see those transactions alone. They don't get to see all the transactions of the employee. So there can be adequate mechanism put in your own system to ensure there is security of the data that is being accessed via AI. That's it from our end on the business side of the workflows, B2B templates. These are less used in the industry, but there are good amount of use cases, especially on the SEBI, which is the CT043, I think, which is for employee compliance monitoring, and 43, which is for lending and recovery agents, uh, disclosure. Those two templates are most prevalent. So I hope this session has given more insights into what these templates are. Please take a moment to take the survey to let us know if there is how this session has helped you. And if you have any questions, we can discuss that. I have couple of points on UI UX, but this is not a customer facing, so I'll skip that for now. We can discuss any other process related question that you may have. Yeah. And look at it. Some of you are confident, one or three. The others are not too sure yet. Are there any questions because of which you are not very sure? Are there any questions on these templates or anything that you would want to know more?
Rishabh, you can unmute and ask a question.
So all, Risha this is from India. So all these templates we have already in place. My question is, the use case we are expanding for the current templates or any changes in the upper bound like frequency or anything we are updating. The template library is there within the Semeti website. So anything changes in the parameters or it will remain same.
Rishabh, these templates are subject to revision based on either the feedback from the market or if there is any regulatory change, or overall, in general, there is a proposal from the members for change. Like I said, the last one for government scheme beneficiary, right? It was prepared keeping in mind the NABARD's requirement and the Ministry of Rural Development, I think, had requested for it. We prepared for it. But if there are more government schemes and more FIUs who are already covered in the A Master Directions want to be part of this and they want us to revisit this, we will definitely run a council. We'll take this proposal to the market. Council actually includes FIUs from the market itself. So we'll have the proposer as well as the council members who deliberate on this and they vote and they reach a consensus. And even if they are not able to reach consensus, there is a fair use committee which is cross-sectoral, which has both FIU, FIP, and AA. All three of them are there. So we take it to that and we get finalized. It is subject to revision. We've had only 2-3 revisions so far, but not for any of these templates. I think 4.2 had a revision. Initially, when CT042 was prepared, it was only for agents and partners. Later on, employees was also brought into this because the employees who work in the collections division were also to be checked or also required to be submitting their financial condition, financial statements. So they were also brought as part of this. And there are some regulations which require employees to disclose their financial condition. So we had to include. That was a change. And when the change was made, an ecosystem-wide circular is published. And I can show you where all our circulars and details are published. If you go to our Samvati website, so the fair use library is available here, right? This is fair use library. And if you go to circulars, you have all the circulars that are published till date. So under fair use, you will see all of these. We send the email to each of the parties. We have the spots from all the REs, right, on our CRM. We send an email to all of them. We send emails even to the TSPs who have subscribed to our circulars. And we also send emails to AAs. So they'll be able to know. And the third thing is any change in the version, it has been maintained as per version, so you will get to see the versions. We are coming out with XMLs. I think if you are from NADL TSP side, we're coming out with XMLs soon. So you'll be able to look at the versions and the effective date on which particular template was made live and when does it get deprecated. That's come. They're subject to change. Short answer.
Yeah, understood. Thanks.
We have another question from Pratap. Pratap, if you would unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, I was just checking, can the CT040 be used in space for account validation similar to a penny drop kind of a thing?
I'm not too sure penny drop is the right use case here. I'll tell you a couple of points. It is up to you to decide. See, for any account to be validated, for even to reach the point of consent, it has to be first discovered and linked. And in our ecosystem, account who might be inadvertently doing dormant account, but otherwise only active accounts are being linked, being discovered and linked. So in that case, by default, it means that the account is active. But this is not a proxy for the penny drop at all. Like also, one of the things that I'm not too sure if it's the right way to put it here. This is for machine to machine transfer of information and not so much of a balance check kind of thing. Balance check you anyway have UPI and others. There, yeah. Very fair. Is there a field that marks it as active? I'm unable to recall, but yeah, I think there is a field in the profile section that tells whether account is active or not. You'll get that information, but whether you will replace it with the penny drop or not, I'm not the right person to answer that.
Okay.
recordings will share post the session. It will be uploaded in YouTube. You can subscribe to our Samati channel there. I'll just quickly take you to YouTube as well. Do we have it somewhere, PM?
In the website, it's in the blog section.
Yeah.
The YouTube link I'll share it on the chat also.
So our YouTube link has all the relevant videos, all the public sessions that we do. If you look at if you look at the webinars on what we had for SEBI entities last, that is also available. And prior to that, we had a session on lending that is also available. So, is there a playlist, Piali? If there is a playlist, we can add. Yeah, there is a playlist.
Explain just the playlist.
It is available, so you can use this, refer to this if you want. And we'll add this one also to the same channel. Please subscribe to this so that you will get a notification when we add. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we are on time. We can wind down. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for all for joining, and we hope to see you with more and more templates or more and more use cases in the industry, and then bring you such templates for discussion. Thank you.